In early 20th century Siena, three brothers made a choice that would unravel their lives. Federigo Tozzi captured their descent into forgery with the precision of a scalpel, a masterpiece of Italian realism that vanished from English literature for a century. What drives ordinary men to extraordinary acts of desperation? Welcome to Haberdash Books. Subscribe for new forgotten classics every week. Find the full audiobook, our Patreon, and our full catalogue at haberdashbooks.com. Links are in the description below. Federigo Tozzi was born in Siena in 1883, a city that would become the crucible of his art. He lived in an era of profound change: Italy's industrial transformation, the collapse of old certainties, the grinding pressure of poverty and class struggle. Tozzi worked as a journalist, a teacher, a writer, consumed by the inner lives of his characters. Yet despite his mastery of psychological realism, despite his association with verismo, the movement that demanded life be depicted unembellished and raw, Tozzi remained marginal, overshadowed by more celebrated contemporaries. Tre Croci, published in 1920, the year of his death, stands as his crowning achievement. It is a novel of suffocating dread, set in the failing bookshop where three brothers, Giulio, Niccolo and Enrico, face financial ruin. Desperation leads them to forge bills of exchange. What unfolds is not a thriller of detection, but a psychological excavation. The slow corrosion of conscience, the way shame compounds silence, the impossible weight of family loyalty twisted into complicity. Tozzi's prose is surgical, stripped of ornament, building atmosphere through repetition and the careful accumulation of small betrayals. He writes with the intensity of Chekhov, the social eye of Zola. Yet English readers lost him. His work slipped into obscurity, overshadowed by the grand narratives of Italian modernism. For generations, Tre Croci remained a whispered recommendation among scholars, a secret kept by those who knew. Now, through Samuel Chatwin's luminous translation, Tozzi returns. This is not a rediscovery. It is a resurrection of a writer who understood, with devastating clarity, the fragility of respectability and the violence hidden in silence.
A note from the translator. I first encountered Federigo Tozzi's Tre Croci not as a book, but as a whispered recommendation from a literature professor, a true aficionado of neglected gems. He described it as a stark, compelling portrait of human frailty, a story that would linger long after the final page. Intrigued, I sought out the original Italian and was immediately captivated by its raw power and the exquisite precision of its prose. Tozzi, though perhaps not a household name in English-speaking countries, holds a significant place in Italian literature. Active in the early 20th century, he was a master of psychological realism, delving into the inner lives of his characters with an almost surgical intensity. He's often associated with verismo, a literary movement focused on depicting life as it truly was, unembellished, and with a keen eye for the social and moral struggles of ordinary people. Tozzi matters because he offers a window into the soul of a particular time and place, Siena in the aftermath of a changing world, and because his exploration of universal human themes, guilt, ambition, deceit, and the crushing weight of circumstance, remains profoundly relevant. For too long, English readers have missed out on the unique voice of Tozzi. Tre Croci is a masterpiece of quiet desperation, a tale of three brothers whose entangled lives in a failing Sienese bookshop lead them down a path of moral compromise. It's a story that explores the subtle ways we justify our actions, the slow creep of deceit, and the devastating consequences that ripple outwards. Its power lies in its unblinking gaze at the human condition, inviting us to reflect on our own vulnerabilities. In translating Tre Croci, my primary goal was to preserve the hypnotic rhythm and the unadorned directness of Tozzi's Italian. He builds atmosphere through subtle repetition and carefully chosen words, and I strove to echo that sense of impending fate in English. There are moments of wry humor, flashes of tenderness, and an overarching sense of poignant realism, all of which I endeavored to carry across, allowing Tozzi's distinct voice to shine through. I invite you now to step into the quiet world of the Gambi brothers, to witness their struggles, and to experience a truly remarkable piece of Italian literature. Samuel Chatwin, Haberdash Books, 2026. After eating, Niccolo was always disposed to cheerfulness, but so volubly that he would insult anyone who spoke a word more than he wished to hear. Giulio, on the other hand, during the entire process of digestion, tutored his nieces, and Enrico would go to sleep for a couple of hours. Niccolo said, "Don't talk to me because I go into a rage, you make me seethe with anger. I was so happy instead. Leave me be, I'm fine alone, talking to myself. Only I understand myself." Then he left, walking slowly and dragging his feet, almost sweating although it was October. Gout had come upon him like his other brothers, and from how much he had impippiato, meaning unclear, possibly grumbled or complained, he could barely move his legs. p. 27 edit in the street, he pretended to put on a smiling face. And if someone then prepared to reciprocate, he quickly dodged and showed himself grim, almost offended. Returning from his walk to the Lizza, a public garden in Siena, which was enough for him to smoke his entire cigar, he found an old friend in the shop, Vittorio Corsali, who was an agent for an insurance company. "Oh, today, I don't want to talk too much. It's too much effort. I don't know how I could bother you if I haven't opened my mouth since you came in. It doesn't matter. People bother me even when they are silent. But I, as I was telling your brother Giulio, had come to propose a good deal to you. I don't feel like doing business, talk to him, but when I'm not here because today I can't even tolerate a fly buzzing." And he started to laugh as if to make a p. 28 edit, swaggering bravado. It was a violent, sensual, and acrid laugh. Corsali said to Giulio, "I'll wait until it passes." Niccolo, then, was seized by fury. "And I'm telling you that you must not speak to me. Do you understand? I'll grab you by the neck and throw you out of the shop." He was breathing heavily, biting his hands. Corsali, who was about to take offense, even though Giulio gestured for him not to take it seriously, took a step towards the door to leave. Niccolo, barely turned away, gave such a spontaneous and joyful laugh that the man was astonished. "You hadn't noticed I was joking? This is not the way to treat friends." But Niccolo did not want to hear that, and he became menacing and provocative again. Vittorio Corsali was thin, bald, and had white mustaches. When he spoke, his teeth were visible, and his entire head 29 edit seemed, roughly, like a fox's skull. Giulio asked his brother, "When are you willing to listen to him? Please tell us." "Any time you want, except today. But tomorrow I'm going with the carriage to Radicondoli for my insurance company's business." And there, at the parish priest's, I saw a silver crucifix. Niccolo, who was beginning to listen, turned vehemently. "Is he selling it?" "That's what I wanted to tell you." Niccolo seemed angry and as if he had to argue. "Are you sure I'll like it?" "I think so. You don't understand anything, I don't trust you." "I know you consider me a fool," Giulio asked. "How much does he want? Is he greedy?" "It costs, from what I understood, 200 lira notes." Niccolo trembled. p. 30 edit. "Tell the priest to stick it up his throat. It's not for me. I buy from those who don't know how to sell. If he comes into the bookstore, I'll kick him out. Tell him, God forbid if he comes looking for me." And he opened his mouth wide as if he wanted to bite him. Then, smiling, he calmed down. He reclined on the chair, looking now at his brother and now at his friend, his eyes sparkling with enjoyment, stimulating them to laugh. There was such a pleasant hilarity all over his face that the others also felt it immediately. But when Niccolo saw them change like that, he said with afflicted and abrupt regret, "Don't talk to me." Then, as if Corsali wasn't there, he began to speak to his brother. "Did you send those invoices? I have to put them in the envelopes. What are you waiting for? I'll take care of it today. Did you mark everything down correctly? I copied it from the book. With the dates." p. 31 edit, with the dates. "I'd like to know why they don't pay. Gentlemen want to take their time." Niccolo tapped his little fingers ring on the chest, then he yawned and said, "My head aches, that too peppery stew hurt me. You're the one who wants it that way. Tonight is their chicken?" "I think so." If not, I'll go eat at some trattoria, an informal Italian restaurant. You can go, no one forbids you. It's not the first time. And what are you eating, Vittorio? Me. I eat whatever I find. Soup, perhaps like brassia, a type of thin gruel or broth, boiled meat, and then, if there's a cirindello di Cassio, a small piece of cheese, just enough to put in a mousetrap. Niccolo laughed and said, I'd like to find a turkey hen for tomorrow. Do you believe that I couldn't even pee? 32 Edit put boiled meat in my mouth to chew it. He was cheerful and festive, and he began to tell one of his jokes. He always knew new ones, and then he would laugh even with his stomach, convulsing. This one's truly beautiful. Find me another one who unearths them like I do. Giulio also laughed, but with a closed throat. Niccolo continued. God, how I laugh, tears even come to my eyes, it even hurts me. Last night my wife woke up and told me, why are you laughing? Because I remembered in a dream the one I told the other day. Repeat it to him too, Giulio, my witticisms should be printed. But he became serious because Enrico was entering the shop. He was still drowsy and dazed. He walked all shamblingly and bumped into the counter where the bookshelf was. Oh, I can't see. I slept badly. There was, under the windows, the marble worker who pee. 33 Edit was making a racket with certain thuds. When one knows there is someone sleeping, they should be more considerate. It seemed as if he was doing it on purpose. I'd like to know why he needed to bang around. The marble must have arrived. But it's a matter of education. He's not the only one in the house. What do I care about his marble? It would be the same as if I cared about his horns. His wife gives them to him every day. They say so. And what did he care if you wanted to sleep? What kind of talk are you giving me? Of the two of us, let's ask whoever you want. I am right. I'll bet you anything. Any gentleman would agree with me, because if I sleep he can still work while I had to wake up. When I came down, I wanted to quarrel with him. But another time I won't stay silent, I'm too good-natured. And why did you drink the whole bottle of cognac? Niccolo replied, P. 34, buy one for yourself. Of course, from now on, that's what I'll do. Even if this is how brothers treat each other. I thought I'd find at least a small glass. And did you drink the water? The water? May my eyes be splashed out if I ever put a drop in my mouth. I used that to clean my backside. He, when he got angry, had an unpleasant voice, and he continued. You say that to offend me, but I know how to keep you in your place. Why did you ask me if I drank the water? Or should brothers not show each other respect? Isn't that right, Vittorio? If they repeat it to me another time, I'll truly quarrel. Because I'm touchy. And then for what's right, Niccolo asked him, why don't you go to your bindery? I do as I please, I have as much right as you. Books aren't bound with my skin, after all. If you want to pee, 35, quarrel, I'm always ready, even if there are two of you against me. Giulio looked at him in surprise and replied, It seems to me that we let you blurt out whatever you want. Of course, I'm right. I'm not saying you're not. So why do you insist? I'm telling you I have no desire to raise my voice. You don't, but Niccolo does. Then Niccolo said to Giulio, advise him to leave, and he picked up an antique vase. And you, to break his head, would you ruin that vase? I use my hands, make him put the vase down, not because I'm afraid, but because shop property must be taken care of. It's earthenware that chips just by looking at it. And then look how he's dented the chest with his feet. You're a lout and a spendthrift. Vittorio, who wanted to laugh, said, P. 36. Do me the favor of stopping, both of you. It's a shame between brothers, or don't you love each other? Enrico replied. Not him, he'd tear me to pieces if he could. Giulio said, it's not true. You always excuse him, but it's true. Make him put the vase down. He won't listen. Won't you put it down? I'll leave. Damn the day I came. He cast an irritated glance at the bookshelf too and left. Then Niccolo said, we must put a stop to this, he has to stop. But it's also you who doesn't know how to handle him. I wish he would die, Corsali asked. And why? I know why, don't make me talk. If it were just Giulio and me, things wouldn't be like this. It's P. 37 been so long that I've wished it were just Giulio and me. But now he's here too, and it's good that he stays until. Corsali didn't understand what he was alluding to, but Niccolo cut him off anyway, trembling all over. Quiet, Giulio understood that he could commit an imprudence, And Corsali, noticing this, said to reassure them, "I don't want to know your business. I come here as a friend, and you can be sure that I am neither a gossip nor malicious." Giulio then composed himself. It's Niccolo who makes people imagine who knows what, with his buffoonery. Niccolo, knocking his knees together, exclaimed, "Quiet, I tell you. What did I say? Quiet, quiet," and he covered his mouth with a hand. Corsali had become curious, but by now P38, he understood that they wouldn't reveal anything more. "If you're afraid of me, I'll leave you." Niccolo shouted at him, "No, I want you to stay." Giulio blushed like an embarrassed young girl. Corsali said, "A few minutes ago you were so cheerful." Niccolo shouted louder at him, "Me cheerful? This is the greatest slander that can be invented about me. I never laugh. Never, do you understand? Because you don't remember. Enough, 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 if I say I don't laugh." Giulio motioned to Corsali to leave, and when he had left, Niccolo began to sob. "And now, why are you crying? I can't take it anymore." Then Giulio too, who was watching him standing behind the desk, felt his eyes fill with hot tears, which blinded him. And they didn't have the courage to look at each other again. Excerpt from https://it, Wikisource, org/w/index. PHP title equals Tre Croci /capitolo Roman 3 and olded equals 3,829,522, p. 39, IV. Cavalier Orazio Niccioli, municipal councillor and head of several charitable congregations, was sure of always receiving the same deferential welcome. He entered with an air of affectionate good nature, trying not to let it be known that he considered himself the master of the bookshop, and he truly loved all three brothers. He had a childlike mouth, and he always puckered it. He looked, lowering his head, over his glasses. The day after the two brothers had cried, he quietly asked Giulio why he didn't hear Niccolo. "How are things?" Giulio blushed and replied, "They haven't changed, P40, but nothing worse." No, Niccolo waited for him to speak first, and with him he was almost humble. He asked him, "Isn't he speaking to me? Why should I make a difference between you and Giulio? You always keep yourself cooped up in that chair. Poor Mr. Niccolo. I'm better here than anywhere else." Almost involuntarily, he felt like joking with him too, but he just smiled. Giulio, however, felt a little upset, and he had to be careful not to lose his head. He would have gladly left to avoid talking to him, like when he found a pretext, perhaps to go buy a stamp, and he would go out and stay away as long as he could. Or like Enrico, who pretended to have a lot of errands, sneaking off immediately, although Niccolo wouldn't forgive him. P41, but Niccioli sometimes became so affectionate that they no longer knew what demeanor to maintain, and Niccolo said, "Giulio, give him a chair. I'll get it myself. Heaven forbid, rather I'll give you mine." But nonetheless he did not get up, continuing to say, "Since you always do us the favor of coming to visit us, please be so good as to stay as long as you wish." The cavalier then softened, and they, noticing this, tried to say pleasant things to him. "How is your wife?" "She's well, thank you. And the baby? He's getting fatter and fatter. What a beautiful baby." The cavalier was so proud of him that he couldn't even find the words to praise him in his own way. "He's truly a prodigy. P42, beautiful, strong, what should I say? Robust, well-built, his little feet, his little hands, intelligent. He understands more than we do. You just have to SHH, he turns immediately, and he's exactly 14 months old. He turned it 3 days ago. He's my consolation." Niccolo was starting to feel like laughing, but he pretended to sneeze. The cavalier said to Giulio, "Come with me, let's take a walk together. That way we can talk a bit about it." Giulio, unable to refuse, put on his bowler hat and replied, "I'm coming right away. I only like talking about him. For me, there's nothing else in the world." Niccolo nodded in agreement. They walked as far as Porta Camalia and then to Pescia to re-enter the city from Fontebranda. The Pescia road descends, winding under a steep and bushy hill, ever higher, and Siena retreats and hides more and more behind P43 it. The countryside to the right slopes down into a very long, vine-covered hillock. At the Madanino Scipato, only San Domenico is visible, massive and red, on a projecting rise. The sky was tinged with a rosy mist, and the monastery, on a steeper and more distant height, seemed of the same red with 2 cypresses beside it, dark and pointed. A sunken stream, gushing down through the ravines, came from its hill to the road, amidst a trembling tangle of twisted and gnarled poplars, suckering. Beside the poplars, there was grass of such a strong and fresh green that Niccioli stopped talking about his baby to say to Giulio, "I'd gladly exchange these fields for mine in Monterigny." But he quickly recovered and didn't give the bookseller time to reply. He had recounted, though it wasn't the first time, how many doctors had attended his wife in childbirth, everything that had happened, with the dangers and the remedies. Then, p. 44, how many wet nurses he had had to try before finding one who had enough milk. Now, he had reached the inflammation of the gums from the teeth that were beginning to emerge. He took out of his pocket a small book covered in white cardboard with gilded edges and said, "You see, I, so as not to forget anything, write everything down here. The baby never cries, not even at night. But when we heard him cry, my wife, sensitive and nervous as she is, immediately got alarmed, because it hadn't occurred to either of us that it could be his teeth. We immediately, I tell you immediately, sent for the house doctor, who, to tell the truth, to his credit, came at once in a carriage. He's one of the few scrupulous doctors, whom one can trust. I'd never call another. Be careful. I'd forgotten to tell you that the child had a fever at home. We'd already lost our heads, some running here, some running there. My mother-in-law had even come, who p. 45 edit wanted to apply leeches, but I refused. Although it's a remedy that I don't dislike, my wife was crying. I'll let you imagine all the rest. And since he feared that Giulio might get distracted, he always forced him to look him in the eye, just as he did. When they returned to the bookstore, Giulio was utterly exhausted. And the gentleman said to Niccolò, "We had a magnificent walk. Ask your brother." "I believe it if you say so, but we will soon take another one, and you will come with me, Niccolò." "I cannot walk on foot." "And why, if even I walk?" Giulio said. "All 3 of us have gout, as you know." "It is something shameful. Allow me to say so frankly. Ah, if I had it. What would you do?" But the gentleman did not know what to p. 46 edit answer and felt bad thinking about it. After 5 minutes he resumed, "If I had it, I would want to recover. Ah, I couldn't bear it." And he stared at the 2 brothers' faces, who hastened to appear convinced. But Giulio was afraid that Niccioli wanted to make them talk a lot to better understand their souls. And since he considered himself more guilty than the others, it seemed to him that Niccioli already suspected. And every time he entered the shop, he felt already lost and closed his eyes. Niccolò also was afraid, but he tried to think of something else, because a kind of immobility seized him. And then, he even made mistakes in answering, as if he were deaf and didn't understand. Blood rushed to his head, and if the gentleman stayed a long time, he felt ill all day. Giulio, in the long run, had lost his health, and was losing weight, although by now his character could no longer change. Once he had been of distinguished p. 47 edit, almost gentlemanly manners, and now he reluctantly resigned himself to always wearing the same blue suit, shiny and worn out. Niccioli admonished them. "It is useless for me to repeat it, it seems to me. If the money from your takings were little, you must inform me. Be careful that I, in return for the favor I have done you, demand no other sincerity from you. You understand that even I, although I may be, up to a certain point, a gentleman, I must know how my money is doing." Niccolò went to change the position of a row of books, dusting them with an elbow. But Giulio also remained silent. The gentleman was a little surprised, and believing he had offended them, continued, "Let us consider that I speak to you like this, because I am your friend. I give you proof of it. Do not believe me bad or repentant of the signature placed. I have told you that, to have what is mine returned to me, I am in no hurry. I know that you are good and loyal like me. IP 48 edit would be ashamed to suspect. It doesn't even cross my mind." Giulio would have begged him to stop, and Niccolò, on the contrary, shoved the books into the shelf, which was also too short. The whole regiment passed by, and only their rhythmic footsteps could be heard. Involuntarily, all 3 turned to the door's glass panes, always with the same state of mind, which even intensified. Suddenly, the band struck up a march with all its instruments. The panes trembled, and all three started. They listened, and their feelings seemed to grow, albeit in contrast with the flamboyant music, as if astonished. When it had moved away, they felt themselves together again at the same point with suspended souls. Niccioli waited a little and then resumed, "Do you see how you are?" "I am different, not to boast about it," Niccolo said with his robust voice, which immediately made one believe. p. 49 edit. "If you wish, we will return your money within 2 months." Niccioli disliked this answer because he believed he had irritated their self-esteem. "You always take things for the worst." Giulio, with a sweetness that repulsed him, said, "The gentleman did not mean that. One can never talk to you. Excuse him because even he doesn't know what he's saying. He becomes irresponsible." Niccioli was satisfied and said, "No one more than me knows your honesty, no one more than me esteems you, and that's not enough for you. We have known each other since we were children, and I would be ready to remain without bread for you if I didn't have a family. I only ask you to treat me as a friend because I don't believe you can complain about me." Niccolo managed a laugh and said to him, "You know how moody I am?" But the gentleman had not yet 50 edit vented, and Giulio had to listen to him for almost half an hour. When he left, Giulio said, "Oh, finally we can breathe." Niccolo proposed, "And what if we told him about the forged bill? I bet he would pay it, he is so benevolent, didn't you hear how he talks? And what does it matter if he talks that way? One should not take advantage of it, and perhaps not even believe him. You never want to try, because I am sure of what would happen. Giulino, listen to me, I tell you he would pay the bill. Listen to me at least once. Do you want to take the responsibility of telling him? Me. I won't tell him anything until he notices." Enrico, limping from gout, opened the door. "I came to get about 20p. 51 edit liar for the fish. They told me that at the market there's a white wood pigeon as white as salt and a basket of eels still alive. Then you did well to come back. But another time, if you leave us alone when the gentleman comes in, I swear I won't want you in the house anymore." But since Giulio was laughing, Enrico understood there was no danger of quarreling. And he said, "What did he tell you? I don't understand why he stuffs himself in here every day as if our bookstore were his confessional. It's an indecency. When people can spend the whole day doing nothing, they try to pass the hours with chatter. I now, if you give me the money, will go buy the fish. I'll go by myself because I want to choose it. I'll sweat like a donkey, carrying it all the way home. Have the fishmonger bring it. No, I don't trust him. Do you remember when he traded us stinking mullets and I had chosen them, one by one, fresh? There's no trusting him, give me the 52 edit money, otherwise there's a chance some carter or gentleman will buy it." Giulio took 20 lire from his wallet, and Enrico, taking them as if he had managed to swindle them, said, "The gentleman always talks about that child, whom he believes to be his. No one is more imbecilic than him." And all three burst into laughter. Extracted from https://it, wikisource, org/w/index. PHP, title equals Tre Croci /capitolo Roman 4 and olded equals 3,829,523, p. 53 edit, v. Modesta was a peacemaker who lived only for her family. She knew nothing else and understood no more. Energetic and robust, she spent her days at home, and she worked more than the maid. For her nieces to take her out for a few hours, they had to try every stratagem. As tall as Niccolo, she was no less massive and no less fat. Her husband and brothers-in-law filled the house with provisions, and she only had to worry about cooking them. But she had caught a whiff that they were hiding something from her, and she was no longer as calm and content as she once was. As Niccolo finished drying his face and hands, she asked him, "Why do you always complain that the bookstore doesn't make money, and instead we live 54 edit like gentry, as if we had money by the shovelful?" Niccolo feared her, but answered with nonchalance, "You stay in your place. My wife should not ask these questions." She wanted to stand up to him, but she burst out laughing. He then continued with his usual cheerfulness. "Women should think about their knitting." She lost her frankness, but she would not remain silent. "I'm sure you're not telling me the truth." Niccolo laughed louder. Too many times I've seen you worried, and too many times you've said that we could find ourselves in poverty. Don't make me angry in the morning. I had gotten up in such a good mood, and you want to spoil it. Don't be a clown. And your tantrums. I'm not having tantrums, I'm truly annoyed. P. 55 edit. How am I supposed to reason with you? Am I supposed to cure you? I told you to let me get dressed in peace. I ask you as a favor. She then went into the kitchen to prepare his chocolate. He hurried to put on his jacket before she returned. Modesta would not have dared to insist, but her anxiety gave her strength. And bringing him the chocolate to his room without making him go to the living room, to be alone, she said to him again, I will go to Cavalier Niccioli today. Go to whoever you like. Niccolo was still willing to be gentle, believing his wife would just stop. But he wouldn't have felt secure if he hadn't thought of his brothers. His face was distressed, and just to be able to leave, he didn't care if the chocolate burned his tongue. You, despite the affection I bear you and the years of our marriage, try to hide from me what you make clear just by looking at you. Mind you, this is no joke. P. 56. Are you threatening me? Now you can no longer claim to be a good wife as I believed, and as you boasted. She was breathless, but without feeling disheartened. Her husband couldn't lie to her, and she had been foolish. But nevertheless, her instinct did not persuade her. Like when she had believed she dreamt of a certain lottery win, and she went back to playing the numbers again, with that stubborn, absurd fanaticism of hers. She then, waiting for Enrico to come into the living room to drink coffee, while she prepared buttered slices for him, decided to speak to him about it. Not with Giulio yet, because he would have told her husband. Enrico was sly with her and sometimes gloomy. He spoke to her from a distance, always rudely. Seeing him enter grumpier than usual, she feared he would answer her too harshly. But she asked him, How are the bookstore's affairs? Isn't your husband here? Why don't you ask him? Why do you ask P. 57 me? This milk isn't as good as it used to be. Niccolo didn't want to tell me anything. And so, you turn to me? But I'll find out anyway. Women succeed at everything. It won't be difficult for me then. Listen, let me have breakfast in peace. Rather, you've put too little butter on the slices, I'll have to spread it myself. The less I want to talk to you, the more you bother me. She didn't know if she was mistaken or if she had reason to suspect. He looked at her with contempt, frowning and with a hostile seriousness, as if he hated her. Sometimes he had been unpleasant to her, but she had immediately reproached herself, as if for an impropriety. She couldn't be angry with a brother-in-law. She thought then of supplicating him, but as soon as he noticed, he said, I ask you to stop and leave. She obeyed, regretting having believed he would have listened to her. P. 58, Enrico, instead of taking his usual morning walk, went straight to the shop and said to Niccolo, It seems to me your wife is becoming presumptuous. What did she say to you? I suppose she first asked you what she was asking me. Niccolo, so as not to appear weak before his brother, replied, She was careful not to with me. Do you take me for an idiot? Let's agree instead. And when Giulio comes, let's ask him too. Truly, I don't think we can reproach her. And I tell you, yes, don't be sentimental. Today all three of us will talk to her together, because you shouldn't suppose that I let even an ounce slip. You would have been caught in the trap. No danger, I'm cunning enough even though she's a woman. P. 59. Precisely because she's a woman, double judgment is needed, and she must be put in her place immediately. I don't even allow her to breathe. It seems so, otherwise she wouldn't have dared, while I was having breakfast, to confront me there. I didn't expect it. Rest assured she knows nothing, rather I'll strangle her. I've always shown her respect as a good brother-in-law, but now I'd make her pay for it. I'll handle my wife myself, I'm enough. Giulio, when they told him everything, said, We are ruined, there's no escape. Women are more cunning than the devil. Who would have imagined that foolish woman? I bet she overheard some of our conversations. Last night we spoke in whispers in the dark. It's possible she was listening. But Niccolo said, P. 60, Today, before we sit down to dinner, we'll make her regret it. Without much consideration, Giulio proposed, It's better with kindness. Enrico retorted, Then I won't concern myself with it. You'll do it yourselves. Giulio asked, as if reflecting to himself aloud, Is it better with kindness or with harshness? Enrico replied, I've always heard that. but Niccolo cried out, "I'll handle it, that's enough. You will just stand there and if necessary you will help me." Enrico shook his head and left, but Giulio was also sorry to oblige his sister-in-law not to meddle in financial affairs. Oh, who could have put it into her head? It seems impossible that no one put her up to it, always so quiet like a pea. 61 sheep, there's never been half an issue. Those are delusions of her mind. I guarantee you she knows nothing. I hope so. At midday, Niccolo had her called into the living room and sent the nieces to the kitchen, locked in with the maid. And he said to her, "All three of us are surprised by the things you started saying this morning. You tell her too, isn't that right?" Modesta felt utterly incapable of defending herself. It was her instinct that told her she was right, but she would rather have been truly ruined than find herself there in that manner. She didn't even expect her husband to make her endure that role. If she had been alone with him, she would have thrown herself on her knees. Instead, she felt faint, as if her legs were buckling, and she no longer had the strength to stand upright. She was dismayed, and at the same time, astonished. Far from guessing that Giulio P. 62 would ask her forgiveness, and that Enrico would be ready, more than the others, out of cowardice, to tell her everything. Niccolo felt an affection for her that for a few moments bordered on adoration. She believed them indignant and full of anger. And if instead she had uttered half a word, all three would no longer have dared to appear before her. But she, barely having recovered a little, whispered, "You mustn't pay attention to me." Enrico replied, "I don't want to know anything else, that's enough for me." Niccolo added, "Another time you'll be more prudent." Giulio said nothing to her because he was ashamed. Then she, filled with almost delirious joy, went to the kitchen to tell the nieces that they could bring the soup. During lunch, she encouraged the others to laugh and be cheerful, feeling a happiness she had never experienced. It even seemed too much to her, and as if she were drunk, though she had not drunk more than usual. P. 63, Niccolo approved of her and teased Giulio when he was serious. He had a premonition that they would soon no longer laugh, and then, with his hilarity, he would have wanted to insult everyone. If the cashier and the bank manager had heard him cackle, he would have been willing to give 10 years of his life. They were muffled, yet frothy laughs, laughs full of impatience, which, if listened to carefully, seemed like shivers, slow and comfortable, broad and insolent. He also laughed with his voice. His eyes sparkled, arousing Enrico's ill manners and Giulio's corrupted timidity. But at a certain point, it seemed that even the plates should laugh, clattering on the table. Everything became ridiculous and pleasant. Giulio said, "Now that's too much." Chirina and Lola cried out, "No, no, you mustn't stop." Only Enrico managed to bring them back to their senses by saying, "I don't like this revelry." P. 64, although Niccolo immediately responded to him with a boorishness far from refined, they laughed less, through clenched teeth. Enrico said again, "That you are the most foul-mouthed I knew, but you must reserve your obscenities for the shop, not in the presence of the girls. Put your snout in your plate and shut up." "If you don't want to listen," Giulio said, "let's not take trifles too seriously. Let's clink a glass of wine, and you'll lose the desire to quarrel." "It's better to have fun than to argue." Niccolo played the repentant, with an air that brought back the desire to laugh. The two nieces looked at him with naive admiration, almost rapt. Modesta got up, went behind his chair, and, taking his head, kissed him. He rubbed the spot where he had been kissed with his napkin, and pushing her away, said, "You mustn't take these familiarities, or can't you restrain yourself?" Extracted from https://it, Wikisource, org/w/index. PHP, title equals Tre Croci, /capitolo V, and olded equals 3,829,525. P. 65.
That concludes Chapter 1 of Tre Croci, the beginning of Three Brothers, Descent into Darkness. Discover the complete audiobook and explore more forgotten European masterpieces at haberdashbooks.com. Subscribe now for classics the world almost lost.